Hello, and welcome to Viacondia's Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Johannan, and we moved to this farm around 7 months ago. I've been working on this video for weeks and weeks and weeks, and just not putting everything together, not getting the last bits that I need. So you're probably going to see me in various different forms of clothing throughout this video, as you see parts that I made weeks back and what I've done today. So what I want to show you is just how far we've gotten in the last 7 months, looking at things like the water supply, the gardens, the animals, and just overall things that we've accomplished, maybe a few things that we failed at, we'll see. But let's get into it. We are currently on our way to the borehole at the bottom of the property. That's a well for our international friends. And we're going to pump water. The original real estate listings we saw for this property said that it had 7 boreholes. We have discovered 5 of them so far, with 3 of them having water, but we've only equipped the 1. At first we had to walk all the way down to the one at the end of the property, because that was the only one with sufficient water. Take a walk with me. Long story short, as far as water is concerned, we now have 2 huge 2,000 plus litre tanks. One's 2,400, one's 2,000, and they are full most of the time, which is fantastic, because now we just switch on the pump and it pumps it straight in here. We do not have to go traipsing about with buckets and barrels and wheelbarrows and generators, which is fantastic. Absolutely loving that. This year we tried our first hugelkultur bed. It's a wonderful concept which allows you to use decomposing logs and grass and other organic matter to create a nutrient and moisture sponge in the middle of a bed. so that you don't have to water as often. In some cases, once the bed is established, you don't even have to water during the dry months at all. But let's take a look. It is the hottest part of the day, so some of the things may look a bit wilty, but they'll perk up as evening rolls around. Alright, and there she is, our hugelkultur bed. She's covered in an assortment of crops, including some cardoon, and there's a new little one that's just popping up down there. These zinnias grow wild here, which I love. They are abundant. Then we have lots of something. It's some sort of brassica, I'm not exactly sure. It fell out of the seed container and was in the bottom of the seed box, so we just thought, oh well, we'll chuck it on the hugelkultur and see how it does. So some of it seems like Florida broadleaf, some of it seems like rape, not all that certain. And in here we have some pak choi, some tomatoes grown from Ross's store-bought tomatoes. So these look like Roma, I'd say, definitely some sort of jam tomato. The amaranth is doing a lovely job of blooming. And this is one of your best crops. We absolutely love it because you get the leaves, you get the grain, fantastic crop. That's one of the native amaranth varieties, cultivated but native. Then you have your standard red, standard green, a couple of peanuts, more zinnias. Oh, and I almost forgot, right on top of the bed we have a row of roselle, which is doing fantastically. It's not as big as it can get, but it's doing quite well. And there's a little crimson green spineless okra, a single tomatillo plant. Our first attempts at growing tomatillos this year were not that great. Some more tomatoes, but these are from store-bought, and it's flowering. That's fantastic. Okay, and another cardoon. A lone moringa tree that survived. There's one of two that we bought. Down there, hidden at the end, beneath the grass, is another okra. The other side of the bed is a bit sparse. We struggled with it for a while because the evening sun just burns too hot. And eventually we put up this line with some hessian just to give it some shade covering. And that's helped a lot. Now we have some peanuts growing. There's that okra from up close, the one you saw from the other side. We planted some chia the last couple of days. Another variety of peanuts. Red burgundy okra. Now let's shift on over to some of the other beds, some of which you haven't seen and some of which have been revised significantly, shall we say. We'll start with the bed right in front of the house, where we initially planted some herbs and a few squashes and things. You've not seen much of an update on that in a while, so let's take a look. Alright, and there she is. Excuse the clutter. The mesh is to keep these geese, who are not free range, out of the garden, since we don't want to have them eating random plants. And most of that greenery is zinnias, wild zinnias. I haven't the heart to pull them out, so they're there. Anyway, okay, so this is one of the squash we planted at the beginning of the season. This is Benning's Green Tint Patty Pan. That one's given us a few decent fruits. As you can see, more zinnias in between the plants. But the bees love them, and so do I. This is the Patty Pan Elba. Produces a lovely, large, white patty pan. You'll see little bags like this all over the place. The fruit flies are terrible. And that's the only way we can keep them safe. Or the only way we found so far anyway. If you look in here, you'll see some young female fruits or flowers that haven't opened yet. So we're looking at quite a few females to come. This patty pan on the other side was supposed to be the Juan et Verde, which is a green and yellow striped patty-pan, but none of these patty-pans have had green and yellow stripes, so I honestly haven't the foggiest. That was what the packet said, but I think the packet was wrong. But anyway, they taste just as good as the other patty-pans. And then next to the herb garden, and the garden on the other side that you saw us put in with the potatoes and stuff, we did get a few nice potatoes off those potato slips, just for the record. But anyway, there's a new garden, or a new piece of garden. We're basically turning this whole front patch into one huge garden. And this part is actually mulched, so it's not drowning in zinnias. Let's have a look. There were stacks of tires lying around here when we got here, so that's why there's tires everywhere. This is our cucumber planting, a mixture of Ashleys and long whites. There's a few tiny dill plants in the bottom here. Oh shoot, something ate my dill. Okay, well, that's not cool, but anyway, I'll plant some more. And some more cucumbers. Lots of cucumbers. Each of these is a different variety. This is a tiny variety called the bush hog, and one of these is the Chinese serpent cucumber, and one of them is Jibai Shomashirazu, which is a Japanese cucumber, and the other one was some sort of Rhinish pickling cucumber. And we have stacks of pole beans. Those back ones are noodle beans, but there's pole beans all over the place here. The bush beans we planted originally didn't do so great, neither did the chards, but here's a successive planting of chards, which is doing fantastically. We've had, I think, almost 3 kgs of chard from that planting. These are the last remnants of the initial bush bean planting. They're at least starting to give us some seed now, which is fantastic because they didn't produce enough beans to eat. And then I read somewhere that basil does quite well with beans. So here's a lovely planting of Genovese and Dolce Fresco. And also we planted a packet of beets, which didn't do well, or it didn't look like it was doing well. But they've been coming up absolutely everywhere, in between all of the other beans and stuff after we mounded up the soil again. Not complaining. We've not had the best results with nasturtiums this year, but I think it's just because we're busy adapting to the climate. There's a couple of potatoes, and this side of the garden has lots more zinnias. Some Swiss chards. I think I mentioned those before. They randomly popped up when we moved the soil from the back. Lovely new mint plant that I put in a few days ago, which is doing quite well. We've been getting in some sweet potatoes, and there's a bunch more beds, little beds here that we haven't planted. We took out that hideous pathway and gave ourselves more planting space instead. Down this way, we have some vine peach melons. Over there's a new planting of chards because the others are starting to wear out. Soybeans. I've been sticking in mallow over the last few days, waiting to see how those do. This is the cucumber melon or mouse melon. Some of you may be familiar with it. It makes hundreds of little tiny melons, which I think will be ideal for pickling. At the back there, we put in some strawberry spinach, but it hasn't really sprouted yet. Some more tomatillos. Thankfully, those did a lot better. And a quick look at the rest. There's some tulsi or holy basil over there. I love this. It's perennial basil, which means not very much effort goes in there. Here's one of the Tarahumara sunflower variety we tried this year for the first time. It's quite pretty, quite like it. That over there is a clary sage, a type of sage traditionally used for medical purposes. Those tall flower buds you see over there are from the endives. And here we have what I think is a South African daisy. It looks a lot like a sunflower, but I see we have some at the bottom of the yard as well. And I know we had South African daisy, so that's probably what that is. heading out to the other side of the property, we have pumpkins and squash, and a lot thereof. Let me show you. This is our Amish pie squash, and again, it is the hottest part of the day, so everything's looking a bit wilty. We've not managed to pull the fruit off this one yet, but it's only recently just started fruiting properly, and the fruits are huge, so it's going to take a minute. This wilty yellow mess of a plant is Jack B. Little. It's given us quite a few lovely small fruits throughout the season, but it is now struggling with the heat and so on and so forth. This is an ugly duckling. So called because it is related to the Cinderella pumpkin, but has a bit more variable skin tone and can be quite warty. This is the Hokkaido. There are currently 8 fruits on here that we're waiting for. One on that one, a couple of female flowers in the making. The last one we pulled off there was a full 5.6 kg, which is not bad because it's quite a small pumpkin. We also have a triamble, which produces lovely large pumpkins, but it's only just coming into its own. We had a bit of a cricket problem with them eating our seedlings. And yes, the rain has done it in with the grass a bit, but honestly, trying to remove the grass from between the pumpkin is just too much effort. It's easier just to let the pumpkin grow out of the grass. And then we have a manhaga, which is a traditional heirloom from Zimbabwe. One tiny little melon plant over here. This is the golden midget. I think it's golden midget, not 100% certain. And then one pull through from our initial melon planting. We literally had one that made it. This is a Georgia rattlesnake, which produces nice, huge melons. Looking forward to that, or watermelons rather. Then over here we have a mixed corn and squash bed. This is Glatt's gem corn mixed with some golden bantam and Chaya's baby sweet corn. So we'll see how that goes. There's some gem squash and dumpling squash planted in the middle. Honestly, the garden collection has expanded quite a lot since I last made a video. So we're trudging over to the other side where we keep the pigs, because we also have a small bed there with some corn and what else? Beans. The potatoes don't seem to be doing particularly well. The bought seed potatoes, but we'll see when the season truly ends. Maybe they just need some more time. But anyway, here we are. This corn has quite surprised me. It's reached quite a height, almost at my shoulder. This is the Dakota Black Popcorn. And you can see there's a few more green bean varieties in here, but these are bush beans. These are Buzz Egg Blues. I don't think any of the purple teepee survived. But anyway, the Dakota Black is a multi-ear variety. As you can see, that one has 1, but that one has a whopping 3. I'm hoping it will expand a bit more as time goes by. Then also along this fence line we have some Lab beans and a few more squash varieties, but they're not fruiting yet, so we'll show those when we get there. Behind the garage we have a planting of different sorghums. Here we have some multicolored broom corn, which is growing for grain and so we can feed the stalks to the pigs. And we also have a few, out of 80 something seeds, we had 6 that reached this size, and they are honey drip. These are a sugar sorghum, which you can cook the stalks of and use the syrup as sugar. Then we also have a very cheap shade tunnel that we made out of things that were lying around. I might do a tutorial on that one at some point, because it's really been panning out quite well. and it didn't cost us much at all. In fact, it didn't cost us anything because we didn't have to buy anything, but that was because there's a lot of junk lying around. So you may need to buy a few things if you're doing this from scratch, but I still think it will be considerably cheaper than an actual polytunnel or something of that ilk. Beneath the polytunnel, we have some more of them tomatoes, for the commercial ones. And then as well some of our heirlooms. We're only just getting into it really now. We struggled to get them going at first. The weather here was quite an adaptation. Some basil. As you can see, there's a whole planting of tomatoes. We finally have a strawberry plant that's doing well. It took us a minute, but since we've put up the shade cover thing and put it in here, it is doing very, very well. Here we have a lovely anise basil and some more tomatoes in between, of course. This, I think, is a chia. I'm not 100% certain. Those are definitely chia, but I think this is a chia. Here we have some more rondini squash. We've been doing second plantings, and I think this is a collard. Honestly, none of the other brassicas we tried at first survived. Is that? That is a new New Zealand spinach. Sorry, I am discovering things along with you here. There is the older New Zealand spinach, which is doing quite well. And some sweet peppers. And down at the end, there you have a sweet potato vine and some chili peppers behind it. That larger chili pepper, right there, is the only one that survived from the initial planting. Then a few meters away we have some more beds. These are various patty pans and zucchinis. In case you haven't noticed, we really like patty pans and zucchinis. These are covered because we have these annoying birds that try and eat everything. So yeah. And some more red burgundy okra, again hidden by zinnias. But I don't mind because the zinnias seem to help shade them out a bit, which helps. They are a bit droopy right now, but I'm hoping it rains later. And then right at the end of that row, looking a bit droopy right now, again because of the heat, is Lesotho Charlie. Despite our best efforts, this is the one and only one of these that survived. But now let's talk animals. A lot has happened on the animal front since we got here originally. Here's one of them. Say hello. This is one of the most demanding cats I've ever met. Their originally planned out names did not stick. This is now Skade, which means Old Norse for shadow. And her sister has been named Maestra, but she is sleeping inside. She comes out at night. The larger chickens have been moved into Traxxas, along with these two Muscovies that you have not met before. As you can see, the Rhode Island crosses have grown significantly. They've become some large and beautiful birds who are yet to lay an egg. I keep reminding them of the fact, hoping that they'll comply. The quails are in a Traxxas too now. They are loving being on grass, and had to process one this morning, one of the extra males that got into it with another male and was a bit worse for wear. But they are honestly enjoying being out here more often, and they started laying for us at the end of last week, which is fantastic. Our first ever quail eggs. You met this lot when they were newly hatched and significantly younger. These are the 3 Pekin Bantams. They're just about full size. We have one female, this one with the funny grey head, who for some reason has a terrible problem with getting feathers, and 2 little roosters. There's this lovely black one with that sort of birchen-like neck, and one that's almost pitch black. All of them are pretty, none of them have names. I don't know why, I just haven't named them. And then there are the rabbits that you encountered. We've finally reached the point where we're ready to start trying to breed them. Just look at how green all this is compared to my first videos. Everything was so brown and dull. But anyway, the male New Zealand whites don't seem to have very much interest in the females, so I've actually crossed them to my Rex, which travelled with me from Richards Bay. He's lovely grey, and I'm hoping to get some nice coats so that I can use the coats for something as well as the meat. This is the cage with the two females that we've bred. She's a nosy Parker, this one. But I'm hoping that both of the breedings took, because then we should have 2 litters mid-January. And then we have the rest of them. Most of them are doing quite well. Unfortunately, we did have some exposure to the rabbit disease that's taken South Africa by storm, which was not fantastic, but it's panned out okay. We've had a lot of new experiences this year, considering that before we moved here, we'd never worked with a borehole pump, never slaughtered a chicken or a quail, which we have now both done and actually eaten them, which were 2 very separate matters, as you might imagine. Yeah, we've learned an awful lot, and the weather here is entirely different to what we're used to, because it is dry, very, very dry. This sort of pre-rain humidity that we get here is what we were used to in general. I mean, in Richards Bay, 80% humidity is reasonably average. Here, you get 80% just before it rains. So that was quite the adjustment. But it's been worth it. We've learned a lot. And honestly, without God, we just wouldn't have made it this far. Because I imagine we would have given up. Not because that's our nature, but because we honestly just didn't know half the time. But let me show you our piglets. The little pigs have become not so little pigs. Still not as big as I'd like, but we're working on it. They're doing well, happy as pigs in mud, probably because they are pigs in mud. And they've done really well over here. I'm going to move away because otherwise you're not going to hear a word of what I have to say, because the moment they see me, they think, food! So yeah, but anyway. Yeah, they've been doing quite well. Apart from a mishap when it started raining a lot and the ground came loose, and having to change some fences, we've not had any troubles with them. They are still extremely friendly, which is fantastic. They love being petted, which I am incredibly grateful for. Unbelievably grateful for. I do not like dealing with grumpy animals. It's not my favorite pastime. But yeah, as you can see, the farm has grown significantly, both in terms of gardens and animals. We no longer have to walk to fetch water, which is a relief. And honestly, if you have a dream, just start somewhere. Do something. Grow something on your balcony. Get some quails in your apartment. They're quiet, no one will know. Do something. You'll get there eventually, but you'll never get to the end if you don't start somewhere. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Bye, con Dios.